So those are the 7 candidates, Andrew. Real quickly, I'll go back through them. So listeners, listen close. Pick out which one you would like to pick. We've got Washington, 24.5. They need to win 35 games.
Yep.
Spurs, 28.5. Need to win 39. Portland, 28.5. Need to win 39. Detroit, 28.5. Need to win 39. Houston, 31.5. Needs to win 42. Charlotte, 31.5. Needs to win 42. And then Utah, 35.5. Needs to win 46. All right. So those are our options. And by the way, there are some seasons where there's not a surprise team. That has happened. And boy, would I love to just say that none of these teams are going to be a surprise team. But that would be really boring. That'd be a really boring end to this segment.
And
and no one. They're all terrible.
No one.
So we did pick our separate teams. And so, Andrew, on the count of 3, I'm going to say 3, 2, 1, go. And then after I say go, you will say your team name. We'll say it at the same time. See if we pick the same team. 3, 2, 1, go.
Washington
Spurs.
Wizards.
Oh, no.
Oh, like you said at the beginning, you're not supposed to feel good about it. And I can say with certainty, I don't feel good about picking the Wizards. I feel really bad about it.
I almost feel like you're cursing Wizards fans. Like they finally broke free of this like mediocrity. They're on the treadmill, and you're saying they're going to win 35 games again.
I think there is a better chance of that. I mean, the truth is, like, 35 wins still lands you in the lottery.
It's true. Yeah, it does.
So you can still get
as Wizards fans are well aware of,
as they did last year. So
the last 3
you
seasons.
win as many as you did last year. I mean, teams like the Pacers, Wizards, Magic, they were all in the same range of each other. I think this Wizards team has enough depth, as long as they don't make deals, that they can get to this level. It's not asking a whole lot. A lot of these other teams, I just found that, man, the leap that we had to make with so many of these teams is up to like the play-in or better, which is just a harder range to get to. 35 wins is not a hard range to get to when you have the depth that they have. I like what Bilal Coulibaly has done so far in the preseason. He doesn't look lost. He looks like he's going to contribute on defense, and he's not being handed like a giant role. So guys like Jordan Poole and Corey Kispert can take that off his hands. Kyle Kuzma is going to take a ton of possessions. And then, like I said, they have a ton of shooting off the bench. And I was choosing between them and the Blazers, or like the two teams that I just had been flip-flopping on since we have started this activity. And I just can't shake that. I just don't know if Chauncey Billups can do it. Because I think it's within the coach's power. And they also just have guys that are shelved too much. And I just don't know if there's a prove it factor with a lot of those guys too. Whereas with the Wizards, I feel like there's like a massive prove it factor with some of the players that are on this roster. And I think that a guy like Jordan Poole wants to show that, like, what a huge mistake the Warriors made. And I think he's going to do what he can to play the right way, and he can really fill it up. So do I feel good about it? No. Do I like Tyus Jones? Yes. Do I think that Daniel Gafford is a good NBA player? Yes. Do I think they have lots of good NBA players? Yes, I do. If they keep their team together, then I think that there's a chance that the Wizards can pull this off, where the Blazers, I just got more and more squeamish about them, especially in the Western Conference, where there's just a lot less wins to be had. And also, I think that they are like heading down a tanking trajectory, even though that maybe their top end talent is a little bit better than the Wizards. I don't know. I think the Wizards are headed for another very, very, very Wizardsy season.
Wow. Well, I feel terrible for Wizards fans that you've done this to them. You've cursed them in this way. Now, I probably have to explain my pick, because I did take the Spurs, and I need them to win 39 games. Now, I will say, talking to Shea Serrano last week, him suggesting, 35 wins feels doable. It would be a success. Like at least I'm in the range. I'm still
Yeah, you're
4 games away, but I'm
four
in the
games, and
range.
4 games is a lot of games once you get to that range.
It is. This is a bet on Victor Wembanyama. This is a
Yeah.
bet that he is not just a good rookie. This is a
Yeah.
bet that he is a generational player, and that he is not only going to be a highlight factory, but he is also going to be impactful from day one. And I do feel like what I've seen and I've watched basically every game, every second of him in preseason. What I've seen in preseason suggests that he is an impactful player. He is going to impact the game from day one. It's not just going to be counting stats. It's not just going to be highlights. He looks like he's going to be a winning player, which makes sense because you look at what he did for his team in France last year and how they're doing now. Apparently they're not doing very well anymore, Andrew, because they don't have Wemby on their team. I'm kind of buying into this idea that he might have a LeBron-like effect on the Spurs. The other
LeBron
part of this,
plus effect, Al. LeBron only won
No.
35 games in his first year.
Shut up. No, okay. LeBron went plus 18, okay? And the
Yeah.
Spurs only have to do plus 17, okay?
Yeah.
So not
Yeah.
as big of a jump, all right, in your face.
Okay.
Other reasons, I do believe in Pop 2.0. He's young now. He's 35 again, and he's the brand new coach, so he is going to fit in with past surprise teams. And while I think the Wemby, the Wemby less talent on the Spurs, like the other guys on the roster,
Mhm.
I would understand the argument that the players on the Pistons have a higher talent level if you're just comparing those two groups of players.
Sure.
But I just like the way they fit together on the Spurs a lot more. I really like that front line with Zach Collins and Wemby. I think that's
Yeah.
going to be really good together. I really like
I do
Devin
too.
Vassell. I think Trey Jones is, a good placeholder point guard. I'm not going to get too crazy with Trey Jones, but
He's like his
what were you
brother,
gonna
a
say?
great backup.
Yeah, I do think he's a great backup. Jeremy Sohan, I'm still interested to see what that looks like. There's been some talk of Point Sohan that they're going to be trying that out. They've tried it out a
played
little
it-
in the preseason.
Yeah, played it last night, and
That's
where
kind
he
of
was
interesting.
he was like the nominal point guard for them last night, which was that was a really fun lineup that they threw out there against Houston. Not that they're going to play that against
Right.
anybody in the regular season, but like Zach Collins, Wemby, Sohan, Keldon Johnson, and Vassell. I don't know. That was pretty
Oh.
interesting.
Kind of juicy. I
Yeah.
kind of like it. And I do feel like there's enough shooting on this team where, like, if Wemby has space, and I think he's been a really good passer so far. Like, if he's kicking out to some of these shooters, I don't know. I'm willing to buy into them over some of these other teams, even though I completely acknowledge, like, this is a jump I am making. This
It's a jump.
feels definitely worse than the Cavs 2 years ago. Because the
Yeah.
Cavs 2 years ago, you could look at them, even with Evan Mobley being a rookie, you're like, okay, I could imagine a jump for Darius Garland. I've already seen Jarrett Allen be a really good defensive anchor, and I kind of bought into this like too big thing they were going to try out, which actually this is kind of a too big thing too with Wemby and Zach Collins. Let's go.
I mean, it kind of is.
Now, in defense of all these other teams, I will be honest, I really thought about every single one of these other teams. I really spent like a solid 5 minutes on all of these other teams,
Yeah.
really thinking it through, because when you have to choose one of these, you're kind of forced to imagine the scenario. And there were a couple teams where I did get close, where you can kind of like squint your eyes just perfectly and see the scenario where they might win that many games. I think the thing that is so scary and why I would actually prefer not to pick any team is because on average, surprise teams beat their over under not by 10 games, they beat it by 14 and a half games.
Yeah.
So like I'm talking about the Spurs getting to 39. If they match what past surprise teams have done, that's probably closer to like 43 wins, 44 wins, which of course I would never choose that. I barely want to choose them to win 39 games. So this has been a very tough year, I would say. I'm just really hopeful that one of these teams does it, because if they do, I think it'll be wildly impressive, even more than past. Because you look at those teams last year, their over-unders were like 23 and a half. They only had to get to 34, 35 wins.
I know. That's part
We're
of the reason
asking
why I
these-
chose the Wizards. Like that's part of the reason why I was intrigued.
It's probably
by them.
smart. Yeah, I mean, we're asking all of these teams, other than the Wizards, to be in the play-in conversation up until the last day of the season, at minimum. And that
Yeah.
is just terrifying for all these teams. So, shout out to Blazers fans, shout out to Houston fans. Like, I really did look at those two teams, really
Mm-hmm.
considered it.
Mm-hmm.
I just couldn't get there. And honestly, what I will say about the Rockets is if the Rockets had the same over under as these other teams, 28.5, and I only needed to predict them to win 39 wins, I might have done the Rockets. I could have talked myself into it because here's a bold prediction for you, Andrew.
Okay.
I've been thinking about the Rockets a lot lately. I think their defense is going to be surprisingly good. Now, I don't know what I need to say for that to be
You
bold.
need to say something else because that's
Okay.
not enough for me. That's not
Okay,
enough.
if I say top half defense in the league, would that be enough to get you to be like, oh, that's bold?
Yeah, that's absurd.
Okay, great. I'll take it. Because I kind of agree with you on the offense. I'm still a little wishy-washy, but yes, I acknowledge that they have Alperen Şengün and Jalen Green, who have traditionally not been good defenders at all. But I look at
Yeah.
the rest of the roster combined with the coach, and I actually think that there might be something there, and that the jump they make this season might be on the defensive end first, and then we'll figure out the offense later.